So today I want to talk about color mixing, but not from the color theory perspective. If you're interested in watching a video about color theory, I prepared a video about the Munsell color system and you can watch it over here. Today, however, I want to focus on color mixing for portrait painting. So when we want to paint a portrait, what are the colors that we need and how to mix them together in order to get the colors that we need for the portrait. So in order to do that, I divided this video into two different parts. The first part, we will talk about what I call supporting colors. These are colors that do not come directly from the tube, but I prepare them in advance in order to mix later. The second part is how to mix skin colors, shadow colors, and highlight colors. The supporting colors are not many, but they are becoming an additional part for the palette that I'm working with. It's up to you to decide what colors and how to build your own palette over time. And I hope that this will help you, of course. The first color that I mix before I start is my own black. And the way to do it is like that. I use burnt amber and ultramarine blue in order to achieve this. And the first thing I do is I place a little bit of the burnt amber on the palette and a little bit of the ultramarine blue, and I mix them together. This gives me the base of a neutral black color that I can use. If you look carefully, you will see that at some point the color will become very dark, blackish, but before that it will turn brown. And in order to mix the color correctly, what we need to do is add more of the ultramarine blue color until we see that the black that we're getting is neutral and it's not too blue or too brown. Now, in order to check, you need to take a little bit of white and mix it into this mixture. So what I do is I take a little bit, not too much, just a little bit. And what you want to achieve is a color that is gray. You can take this, take a little bit of medium, take the white, or some of the white, and run it into the black that we created. Now, if we created it correctly, like you can see here, then we are getting a gradation of gray. The color that we mixed is okay. The second supporting color that I always prepare is green. Because we have a lot of green on our face and skin, I always prepare green in advance. And in order to do that, I take the black that I just created and I add yellow into it. So let's take some yellow ochre. Take a little bit of the black that we created and a little bit of the yellow, okay, and mix them together and see if we get a green. Until we get a green, we can still continue and mix it. Now, because there's a lot of ultramarine blue inside the black that we created, then that will give us the green that we are looking for. Now, I don't want a green that is way too light. What we're looking for is green that is more like an army green or a dark green, just like that, like you can see over here. Okay, and this green, we have a lot on our face. Also, the green is the opposite color on the palette for red. And when we mix green with red, we basically lower the chroma of the red. So we can use that as well. And the third supporting color that I use or that I prepare actually, is gray, because gray helps me lower the chroma of the colors that I create throughout the painting. So what I do is I actually take a little bit of the black that I created and I add white to it, just like we did before, and I create myself a nice gray. Now, if you can make a neutral type of gray, that'll be the best. But if it's too light or too dark, doesn't matter much, but try to be a more neutral type of gray. Okay, so the last supporting color that we will prepare is orange. And the way we do that is with vermilion red and yellow ochre. Now, orange exists on our skin everywhere, but we will need to have a special kind of orange that is not too saturated or not too chromatic. The way I prepared the orange, my orange, is like this. I take vermilion red and yellow ochre and I mix them together. Most of the color will come from the yellow and a little bit from the red. And what we do is we add it in a gradual manner. So we add a little bit of red and we test to see the color that we get. We don't need a very dark orange, so just a little bit might go a long way. And this is more or less the type of orange I'm looking for. Now remember, when we mix it with white, then we will see the true color that we are looking for. Now the combination for the skin color we will discuss in our next part on how to prepare skin colors or different variations of skin colors. But just that you see, the orange that we get over here is very nice, very muted and very earth-like. So if we take a little bit of white and mix it into this, we can see the true color of this orange that we have just prepared. And you can see that it's very good for skin color. It gives us this orangey, light type of color that we can see all over our skin. Now, of course, we can add a little bit more and make it more chromatic like that. Okay, so now that we have our supporting colors, the next part that we will need to do is understand how to prepare skin color. Now, there is no such thing as a skin color per se, because the skin is built from many different layers of colors. We can find green in it, we can find yellow in it, and we can find orange and red in it, and some blue in it. And it depends on the person itself that we are painting and on many different variations. But there's always a kind of a basic color that we need to have on our palette in order to paint skin. Okay, so it's time to discuss my palette for portrait painting. My palette is actually built from white, yellow ochre, vermilion red, burnt sienna, transparent red ochre, Indian red, ultramarine blue, and burnt amber. The supporting colors that we have discussed exist on the side, and they are the black, green, gray, and orange that we have prepared. Now, this is my palette for portrait painting, but you can of course have all sorts of different colors there, and you can build your own palette as you like. The reason I have many different reds on the palette is because we have a lot of red in our skin. However, remember always that the dominant color on our face or on our skin in general is actually yellow. Okay, we will mix a light skin complexion And we will start by the very basic combination of colors. And the very basic combination of colors for a light skin complexion starts with burnt sienna and white. And let's see how this works. We take burnt sienna, okay, and we mix into it white, just like this. We are getting a very nice skin color. It is very basic, and normally I use it for the very first layer of color that I'm painting my portrait with. And the reason is because this color is very nice, but it's very muted and not alive enough in order to provide what I'm looking for within the color of a skin. Of course, we can always do the same thing with taking a little bit of the orange that we have created and add white to it like we did before, and you can see that this is giving us a more orangey type of skin tone. However, we can always add a little bit of the vermilion red into it, and we can control the chroma. And we can control the chroma by adding a little bit of burnt amber, and this will give us something like that, which is a little bit of a darker skin tone. But if we add white into it, it will give us a nice color to work with. And you can see the difference between this and this. This is more pinkish type of color, and this is a more orangey type. But both of them maintain a low chroma character. Okay? Now, as I said before, the main and most dominant color on our skin is yellow. So let's try and see what happens when we take a little bit of yellow and add it into this two different combinations that we have made. And what you will see is that the yellow color, what you will see is that the yellow color creates a more lively, earthy type of skin color, and we are using that quite a lot. Now you have to be careful, of course, not to make it too yellow or too red, but these colors will give us a very nice combination, and you can see it. You can see the difference now between this pinkish part and this yellowish part. Now this yellowish part is very good for example, for the forehead, while this pinkish part might be very good for the cheeks and maybe parts of the nose and areas like that. Now you should remember that if we take a little bit of the transparent red ochre and mix it into those two different mixes, you will see that we can get a little bit more reddish type of skin. And this red, because the transparent yellow, red ochre, is very light and not too aggressive, you can see that the color that we're getting is getting more and more, let's say, orangey. And the combination, if we add yellow into it, is becoming more interesting. And you can use this in different parts of the painting, like for example, again, the forehead, areas of the cheeks, the nose, and you can see this type of color a lot in Rembrandt's paintings. Okay, Now normally this is the way I mix my colors, but of course you can also control the chroma of the color by adding the gray that we have created into the different parts of the mixing. So for example, if we take a little bit of gray and we drive it into the mixture here, you can see that we can get a lot of transition areas that we have on the face. It's becoming a little bit, of course, greenish because we have ultramarine blue and yellow in here. And this is a very good color to mix together that exist on our face, especially in men, but also with women in the transitional areas. Now, if we look at the dark areas of the paintings, normally shadow areas and areas like that, then I like to use a combination of burnt amber and Indian red. This combination gives me, and I'll show you now an example of that. This combination creates a very, very dark color. Now the Indian red is extremely aggressive, so use it very lightly. And I use this combination for different areas in the face. For example, the folds above the eye, where we normally have a kind of a line, is normally this color more than a black. And this is a common mistake to paint it black. But if you look at the old masters, you will see that normally they didn't paint it in black, but they did paint it in a sort of dark red. And this is the type of dark red that I'm talking about. So you can see this is not black and it's not brown. It's a very reddish type of brown. And the Indian red should be a little bit more dominant, of course, than the burnt amber. And you can see this very beautiful color in different areas of shades. Okay, now if you want to get this color a little bit darker, we can take from the black that we created and add it into it. So for example, in the connection between the hair and the forehead. So these areas can be used with this. You can see that we still maintain the reddish type of color, but the chroma is much lower. The characteristic of the color is much darker. And this is what we are looking for. We can add a little bit more, and we can play with it, of course, according to the type of shadows that we are looking for. And you can see this combination in my painting, my self-portrait painting that you can see over here. Okay, now for the highlight colors, for example, we have a lot of highlight on our face. I'm not talking about artificial replication of highlights from what we see in cameras, which is quite ridiculous. It looks like we have a lot of white on our face, but we actually in nature we do not have that. But what we do have as light is a combination of yellow and white. And this is a very nice highlight, and this is a much better, by the way, highlight than taking a straight up white from the tube and placing it like dots on the eye or highlights on the forehead or on areas of the cheekbones here. Okay, do not, or I suggest not to use a white, but to use a combination of the yellow and the white, and this will give you a much better type of highlight and much more realistic, nature-like highlight. Of course, in some areas you can even make it much more light, like this. So you will mix from that mix, but more from the white, like that. But this is a very strong highlight, okay? So normally I use a combination between those areas depending on the place on the skin that I want to highlight. Now I give you a small tip about color mixing while you're painting. So normally try to combine or use a more grayish type of color in between the colors. So for example, if we have here a more reddish type of color, right? And if we have here a more brownish type of shadow or green type of shadow, try to combine them together, okay, with gray in between. And this will create a really nice natural transition instead of just mixing them together slowly. This will give you a much nicer transition, and you can see it in various places of the face. You can see it here in this area of the eye. You can see it here in this area of the eye, on the sides here, and in different areas of the face. So try and use this, and you will see a big difference in your end result of your paint. The last tip that I want to give you is just about a natural tendency of people to go very dark. Okay, so when we start to paint, we can't really see the exact color that we are looking for. And what we are doing actually is trying to go dark and darker. Instead, try to think and limit yourself from doing that. Try to say to yourself, naturally I go more dark, so I will lighten this even though I think right now that this is the right color. And then you will go with the lighter color of the same color that you want, and you can build it up slowly and gradually, instead of going very dark and then lightening up the skin color over the process of the painting. So I hope you enjoyed this and that it will help you. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and give a thumbs up. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video.